Welcome to A Matter of Mindset. I'm your host, it's Joey Jones, and I've got a special guest with me, my good friend Sara. Sara, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
I'm good. Thank
Am
you.
I close enough to the mic?
Yeah,
Can you
you're
hear me?
good. You're good.
Okay.
If you're a bit worried, just talk up a bit.
Okay.
But yeah,
See.
thank you for coming. The reason why I brought you here, I want you to talk about your background and what you do, because I feel like your career path is not really, I won't say desired, but when people say what they want to do, I never really hear them say what you do. So tell us about your background and what the journey was like getting there.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start off by saying I do two things. So I run my own business, which is a vegan protein powder supplement. And I'm also a politician. So I've been involved in politics now for 10 years. So since I was 16, that's when I started showing some interest because I was studying it at a GCSE level. And then I went on to study it around for my A-levels. And I really started to resonate a lot with conservative values and morals. And I sort of studying the ideology and like liberal conservatism, everything I believed in at that age resonated with those views. So that was kind of when I realized I was a conservative. So I didn't really have any influence from family or friends or anything. It was more just me studying and discovering on my own. So really from there, I wasn't at a legal age to stand in elections, but I was doing a lot of charity work around that time. And that's when I said, right, I want to stand in the next, like, whatever election's coming up, I want to stand, like, for the Conservative Party in my local area, because I was reaching, in, like, charity work and local activism and stuff like that, I was reaching a limit to how much I could do based on, I want to phrase it in the right way, of, like, who I was or what my capacity as a person was.
Yeah.
And the reality was I wasn't a councillor or an MP, so there was only so much until I had to go and seek help from a councillor or an MP to help a certain, situation, whether I was helping, young offenders at the time or animal charities or children charities. I couldn't do things myself or, lobby government, for example, or anything. I had to go to someone else. So I stood in my very first local elections. I was 18 years old when I was chosen as a candidate. That was in South Acton. And I lost. We've never had a Conservative councillor there before. So, I never say never, but the outcome was kind of predicted,
Yeah.
But it was a great experience and I learnt so much. And that's when I realised, I can really do this, and not just on a local level, but on a larger scale. Yeah. And that's when I started thinking about, okay, I think I want to be an MP. And I'll go into a bit more about why I thought that, because it's very easy to say, oh, yeah, I want to be an MP, but it means a lot of things. So then I went to university. And the elections were happening in my first year.
Serious?
Yeah.
I didn't even know you were like a member of parliament at uni.
No, I wasn't a member of parliament. I was a candidate for local elections.
Yeah.
So, which is like one step below parliamentary elections, which is what we had in December. So I actually went to Brighton because they were one of the very few universities who were willing to let me take my exams at later dates or tailored dates. Because I had to tell them that I was a candidate before going to uni. And I asked a few and some said, well, why don't you just take this as a gap year and come back next year? But I really wanted to start uni that year. Yeah. And nothing was going to stop me because like what Sara wants, she gets. So Brighton were really supportive and said, we definitely want you to come and study here. All the lecturers and everyone, they'll know, like, you may have to go back to London and miss lectures or, have your deadlines. So, so then that was the first election, then graduated, then stood for the 2018 local elections. I also helped manage a general election campaign in 2017, which I actually want to talk to you more about in terms of my experience, the negative side of my experiences happened a lot in 2017. And then I was chosen as a candidate for West Ham in December
Oh yeah, I know about that.
last year.
Yeah.
Again, a Labour seat, lost. So I've lost 3 elections in total from age 18 to 26.
That doesn't matter. I don't think that matters too.
No.
It doesn't matter at all. I was going to talk about I was going to harp on what you learned from your first loss, because I feel like a lot of people, depending on their character, they don't respond well to setbacks, and setbacks really. So from your setback, you said you learned a lot. Tell us like what you learned from that, because I feel like it'll be valuable to whoever's listening and watching.
Of course. So at that time, I was very young. I was 18 when I started campaigning. And when you're campaigning somewhere where it's majority Labour or majority any opposition party, you're going to face a lot of criticism, a lot of judgment, a lot of scrutiny, and you're going to be under the microscope, especially if you are young, because people are constantly trying to catch you slip up, and no politician and no candidate is ever going to be perfect, and mistakes are always going to be made. But I guess as a person, it depends on how you deal with that.
Yeah.
So the actual campaigning part leading up to the election was so enjoyable. I'm lucky in the sense to say that I can adapt the way that I am, the way that I speak, and the things I can talk about depending on different people. And I think that's actually a really important skill that you need when you're in politics. You need to be able to relate and speak to all different kinds of people from all different walks of life. And it kind of came naturally to me. So it was a very enjoyable campaign. I got to meet some serious game changers in terms of like community people, helping out communities and actually making tangible change in London. A lot of lifelong friends that I made just based off, you know, spending so much on a campaign. It's crazy, Joey. Like it's...
Tell me about it.
I'm not even trying to say, oh, you know, it's really difficult and this is what we do. You know what you're getting yourself into. Yeah. If you're running a campaign, get prepared to sleep a couple of hours every night. You're up at 6 a.m. You're doing deliveries on the door. You're doing it yourself. Candidates, even our very own Prime Minister, to this day, has to knock on doors, do leaflets, door-to-door knocking, canvassings, what we call it. So everyone has to do it. And again, I met some really interesting people on the door, some not so nice people, which was interesting. And a lot of, you know, you get a lot of time wasters as well, because they're just trying to keep you on the door so that you can't campaign the rest of the road. So you have those people that are strategic. But yeah, so when I lost, I kind of... It's not that I thought, okay, I'm going in this to lose it. I went with a really positive mindset, and I was really determined to show voters in that area, because they have never voted any other way. I really wanted to show them the light, because so many people in South Acton were still very disadvantaged and in positions they'd been for election on election, you know, like every 5 years they were in the same position. And so I challenged those voters, and I had the confidence and the passion to want to wake people up, to be able to confront them straight on and say, so you're still in this situation that is hindering your life and your growth as a person. So why do you keep voting for the same party and the same person? You know, the councillors there have been councillors for years. So sometimes I think that creates complacency in some politicians, not all of them. And that's when you start to see a lack of growth in areas, is when you have a complacent political representative. So that was my approach on people in that election. And so I gained, you know, a lot of people who didn't agree with me, but respected that I was someone young, I was a woman, and I'm an ethnic minority. And those 3 things, like the triple whammy almost of what you don't see much in politics, was very refreshing to people. So people wanted to listen to me, even if they weren't a conservative. People wanted to listen to me, even though they were so anti-government. And so that's where I learned a lot about people and respecting other opinions, and actually wanting to find out more about how other people think, because I think it makes you a more well-rounded person and more understanding of the world around you. if you don't just live in your world. Like, I don't live in Sara's world. I don't think Joey lives in Joey's world, because you're inquisitive and you want to learn about other people. So when I lost, I was obviously disappointed, but it didn't put me off, because I know that in politics you have to be there for the long game.
Yeah, with anything, but yeah.
And you know, and if, especially in this field, if you're not in it for the long game, then in my opinion, your intentions aren't pure, or they have to be questioned. Because at the end of the day, to want to be a civil servant means that you have to dedicate your life to serving other people, right? So if you're not in it for the long game, then what's your goal? Are you there wanting to get the status, the title? Is it the power? And of course that exists in politics. It exists in every single country and every single government.
Every single profession.
And every single profession, exactly. So for me, I have a lot of interest in criminal justice. I have a lot of interest in supporting, and I have supported animal welfare for a very long time, and protecting the elderly. But in the last couple of years, I've really focused on criminal justice. So when I lost when I was 18, I said, I've got to channel my passion. I've got to channel my view and my mission. I can't be a politician for every single cause in this country. I have to... What do I really want to achieve is the question, right? Because I'm going to not only be asked that, but I'm also going to keep asking myself that. Because I have to have purpose. You have to.
Wholeheartedly agree.
You know, you've got to have purpose in order to achieve and succeed. If you're just going into something, blindly, the outcome could not only be severely delayed, but you may also get lost on the way and waste time.
Yeah. Wholeheartedly agree.
So when I lost that election, obviously I was so young. I hadn't lived life, so I didn't know anything about like criminal justice. The only thing was really the charities I was working with, which were children, elderly, and animal based. So that was kind of my field. And when I studied and I opened my eyes, and I gained some mentors throughout the party, and I was given if I remember one of my mentors like 8 years ago. We went out for lunch, and at the end of the lunch, he pulls out this massive bag from under the table, and he says, right, here you go. You have 12 months with those books, and we're going to have a conversation in a year's time. And we literally didn't speak for a whole year. I actually ended up returning them after 16 months, but I still read the books. He let me keep them. He just said, I gave you a deadline so you'd actually read them. And I did.
How many books were there?
15 or 16 books.
15, 16 books. Have I read 15,
for someone
16?
Studying full time as well, and still young, and interests in social life and all of that, for me to read a book a month was like a big deal.
Yeah, a book a month is actually very doable when you say it like that. It's very depending on the book though, but it is very doable. But I have to be in like the right mood to want to read. But I do carry a book with me like wherever I go, because that time could just be any time. Like, I could be on the train or the bus and feel like, I want to read now.
Exactly.
And I try to read like a chapter a night for a book for me. What book are you reading now?
I'm reading A Conflict of Visions. So it's a book about different political ideologies and how they've conflicted in the past, and how some of them have worked in the past and historically. And it just explores like different political struggles. It's really interesting, actually. I've read it a couple of times, but I keep rereading it to, I guess, remember everything.
Yeah.
And to realign myself and still think, because I'm pretty impressed that I'm still a Conservative after 10 years. Because usually they always say you start red and you end blue. So you grow up always being like a baby Marxist, or like a communist, or socialist, should I say, not that extreme as Marxism. But you grow up a socialist and then you become a Conservative. That's always that's like the old saying. But for me, because I started there, I thought, well, I'm going to change as a person. Maybe my interests will change. My life path may change. But I keep reading this, and
you know what? I know this might sound crazy, but I think when I was younger, I kind of was like, I wouldn't say I voted Labour, but I was Labour blindly. And I think that's just because I was young. But as I grew older, I kind of understand the Conservative position. Kind of.
Tell me more.
Like, for example, like the example you used with the guy that was Labour in Acton, you've basically been blindly voting for the same government and nothing has changed. So why wouldn't you give the Conservative Party a chance to prove that we can actually better your conditions? Like, you were talking about people in power being complacent. They're complacent because they know that they're blindly going to get the vote of a certain demographic or a certain person in a certain area.
Exactly, yeah.
So
That's literally the point I was arguing, and still argue to this day, to people that are not so politically interested and motivated, but are just keep voting blindly.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's my duty, actually, to be able to educate as many people as I come across in my life, especially my age group. As you know, I think people have become so disengaged and so disenfranchised with politics in general. Yeah. But I think that shift is coming where young people are talking about it so much more.
Yeah.
But in terms of their involvement, I don't think much has changed. And so that's where I feel like it's my duty to give our generation the actual reality of what politics is, because I think that the media really portrays a complete storybook fairy tale version of politics that everyone believes because they don't research.
You know what? I don't really believe it. I think as I've grown older, I kind of just view the media is just there to tell a story and present a narrative. It's not always going to be accurate. So you taking it at face, like, you should really just take it at face value. You shouldn't just take it and be like, this is the gospel, this is the truth. You're going to have to, like, with anything, you're going to have to do some investigating, because what appearances aren't actually real. Like, you have to, like, an appearance is an appearance. To actually, like, delve deeper and see what something actually is, you're going to have to investigate. And I think with, like, for example, like, if nothing has changed, you voting for the same person, why wouldn't you change what you're doing? Or maybe you don't want to change, or you just want to complain and just have someone to someone to transfer your negative energy to. That's the only way I can see it.
Yeah. You have a valid point completely. But I still feel like I see this manipulation and these tools that the media use, and the way that they sensationalize stories. At the end of the day, the media is a money-making industry.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of capitalism. So, and that's something I support. So as a liberal conservative, so they're not complaining. But also I think that it's really up to people to always back up what they're reading.
Yeah.
And I think that it's become worse with social media. And I think you may have seen me have a rant a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think I did.
Joey, but I was so sick and tired. I've unfollowed all the meme accounts apart from I'm Just Bait on Instagram.
Why?
Well, because shout out to him, like, he supports vegans. So.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
But apart from that, I've unfollowed. I was following like 12. I've unfollowed all of them. You know why? I was sick and tired of seeing completely false political facts being posted by these meme account owners who obviously have their own biased opinion on politics, but not respecting the influence they have on this very vulnerable generation. These are still young minds looking at these pages, and you're feeding them lies, and then almost making your own army of whatever you're posting. Right? And I was getting so sick and tired of really politely saying very less than smart debates in the comment sections. Those were so frustrating that I just, it just hit me.
You can't even, obviously sometimes I do that. Like, I like to engage in debates with people. I like to see how people use their mind to articulate what they're thinking and feeling. And sometimes I engage with debates with people. Sometimes I might say something that will just trigger someone, but it will be factual, but people will want to respond. So when I do that and I see people get emotional or they get over emotional and they're just not responding with like facts or empirical data, I just take it upon myself to end that. Because if someone's just trying to talk to hear themselves speak and they're not trying to listen to understand someone else's point of view, then there isn't really a point. So we're just going to be going back and forth, which goes nowhere. As you're a politician as well, you know that everything must be about solutions. Like, we can talk all day, but if you haven't got a solution in mind, then why are we engaging in debates?
Absolutely. You've hit the nail on the spot with that. And I think that what comes with debate on social media comes with a lot of judgment and toxicity.
I agree.
And that's
wholeheartedly agree.
And that's where, if you're involved in part of that discussion, if you're the base of that discussion and argument and debate, so you're the person people are debating about, it's very difficult to take it sometimes. You know, I'll explain what happened to me in 2017. So we had a general election. That's when Theresa May stood down as Prime Minister and Boris came in. So I was not even standing as a candidate that year, right? And I was helping someone who has now got elected as an MP in December. I was helping run her campaign in Ealing, and which is where I live. So for me, it was such familiar ground, and I knew we could really smash it because we'd had a Conservative MP before, but we were fighting Labour at the time in 2017. Now, being as young as I was, this was 3 years ago, so I was 23, and being on a campaign team that was seen a lot in the media because it was one of the most marginal seats in the UK, which means that it was one of the most likely Labour takes we would have had because the difference between votes were very small. It was like 300 something. So it was very easy to take that seat off Labour. Yeah. So there was a lot of media attention on Ealing in 2017. And we were campaigning for a good couple of months. And I was, with the candidate, I was with her 24/7. Like, we were changing our clothes in my car in between like engagements. Like, we'd have one day and we had like 12 places to be. Yeah. Like a temple in the morning, mosque in the afternoon, and then campaign door-to-door knocking for 4 hours, covering like one whole section in Ealing, and then like going to a Gurdwara or speaking to local community members or going to a charity shop. And those were what the days looked like for months on end. And so I used to get home every day at like 3-4 in the morning. And one night, and this was, I think, the day after I did an ITV interview, and I just need to add in, before I go on with my story, when you are a political candidate, you have to declare your address. So when I was 18, my address has been public since then. Okay. So now I'm 23. I'm not even a candidate. But the day after I was on this ITV interview, I come home, and this is actually the night of the Borough Market terrorist attacks, to give you like some context. I had no idea that they had happened at that time, at like whatever time it was in the middle of the night, because I was just not on my phone. I wasn't listening to the news. It was just me and the candidate. We were planning the next week and like game plan for the campaign, right? And so I come home, and outside my driveway, so the entrance, there's a gate, and outside the gates have been opened, and outside them are these massive placards with like spray painted swastikas, death threats against me, saying we'll F up your house until you leave. If we catch you, we'll kill you. Die, scum. Like, there was just so much on there, like swastikas everywhere, and like some like racial slurs. So many death threats. So some of them were really twisted. But anyway, there was loads of placards, and then actually the wall of my driveway had CUNT spray painted, and then I drove into the driveway. I wasn't gonna get out, and I look at my parents' cars, and their cars are completely spray painted from like wheel to top to window, like CUNT, die, we're gonna kill you. So I thought, it's 3 a.m. I'm not gonna get out my car. So I drove to Acton police station, and I go in and there's literally just the receptionist. And I say, oh my God, like I've just come home and there's these death threats outside my house and I'm in a political campaign and like they've obviously, it was a Conservative board, they'd like ripped it off.
Yeah.
So I said, you know, I need to get home. And they said, oh, we can't send anyone with you. There's been a terrorist attack in London and then whatever. So anyway, I managed to get home. And then I think LBC came, the radio station.
Oh, yeah.
They came the next day. They found out about it. And because someone tweeted, one of my colleagues tweeted, you know, look what's happened to a young Conservative activist. Look, you know, what the opposition are doing. We weren't blaming anyone in particular, but obviously, you know, we can all make our assumptions as to who that may have been. So that for me was a pivotal moment, I think, in my political career so far, because it really opened me up to the real world of what I'm getting myself into. I wasn't afraid and it didn't put me off, and I can't really give you a magic formula to why I feel that way, because most people will say, oh, can you please tell young people that, you know, if you went through that, they can do anything. But it's like the emotions were just switched off and I just... You know why I think
that is, though? Because as you said, you were talking about purpose. If it wasn't your purpose, you would be like, yep, this is not for me, I'm out.
Yeah.
But because it was your purpose, you were thinking long term about the end goal. So it's like, okay, this is my purpose. I'm aligned with my purpose, so nothing is going to sway me off that.
Yeah, because I think whatever cards life throws at me, I just know that I'm going to succeed.
Yeah.
You just... Yeah, as you said, purpose. It's the basis to a lot of good change in life.
Yeah. Finding your purpose is, oh my God, that journey.
It's a journey, though.
That journey is
and it never stops.
It never stops.
It never stops. You're continuously growing through that purpose.
Yeah.
And it changes and it evolves into greater things. So yeah, that like short snippet of the downside of politics, but the great side is actually changing people's lives for the better.
Yeah.
And seeing that come into fruition. And as I said, you've got to be in the long game, because I've had to wait to see someone's progression after a decision was made for them or help was given or advice was given as a civil servant.
Yeah.
And you have to be patient. And it's the most beautiful feeling when you realize that someone's better off because you helped them.
Yeah, because of your influence, 100%.
That is like my food, my energy, you know, and every time I get a bite of that, it's like it just drives me. It drives me and I can't explain what it is, but...
You know what? I understand you. I understand what you're saying 100%. Like, for me, like, if I make someone's life better in whatever small way, I'm happy from that. And I think when we work, I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and I'm just like, when everyone actually works together, that is when if everyone actually works together, everyone actually thrives. But because people are insecure, people have been through their own journey, so the way they think is down to due to life experience. But forget about taking away. If you give, that's how you receive. And if everyone gives, that's how you receive.
Definitely. Why aren't you conservative, Joey? You just explained liberal conservatism ideology.
Why am I not conservative? I actually have an answer for that, because I feel like to make any significant change, it has to be done at the ground level. Like, if you want to if you're building a building, you start from the bottom. You don't start from the top. I feel like politics is a stage. It's probably stage 2 or stage 3, but you have to do your work on the ground level first before you can talk about politics, from my view. And speaking of people on social media, I see a lot of people on social media, like, they always want to say, oh, politicians this, politicians that. But when we want to talk about, okay, on the ground level, what are you doing? They don't want to have that conversation. And it's just like, if you want to go about change and you're going about it the wrong way, the change has to begin with you. Then you can talk about other people and what they need to do or what you want them to do for you. In my view.
No, like, I couldn't agree with you more, and I don't say that often to my friends.
I mean,
But we seem to be on the same page about some things. But yeah, that's pretty much what I did.
Yeah.
What I grew into, because the past 2-3 years I've been working with a think tank in Westminster.
Okay.
Called the Centre for Social Justice, and they basically have an alliance of 400 grassroots organisations, social enterprises, and charities across the UK.
Okay.
So I got a lot of exposure to those organisations. So I was working hand in hand with people on the ground, like grassroots level, community active members who have started up their own charities, their own social enterprises to better their area.
Yeah.
Like I'll name you a few so you can, actually, and I almost want to like shout them out because
go on, you can do that.
Because there are some amazing people in this country that give us, so think tanks, then motivation to write policies and reports to then lobby the government and say, hey, we've done all this work and research. We think you should put this policy through and recommend it. Yeah. And that's how things get done in Westminster.
That's just how things get done in life. If you want stuff to get done, you have to be like, okay, cool. This is what we want done. Okay, how am I going to go about getting it done? And it's just, I've noticed a lot of people want to cry and complain with no solutions. And if you want to ask, why is nothing being done? That's the answer right there, because you haven't come with solutions. Solutions is the word. Like, a lot of people want to cry about their problems, which is cool. Like, you're allowed to feel a certain type of way about your problems, but it's like, okay, you're bigger than your problems. You're better than your problems. And to have that mindset, you have to come with solutions. Okay, we disagree on this. How are we going to come to reach an agreement? So everyone hold yourself accountable and do what you need to do. That's how change will get done.
Say it again for the people in the back.
Come on, man. Come on. Yeah. Talk about, you said that you have your own supplement company. Talk about that.
Yeah, so at university I went vegan randomly. There was no reason for it. I can't explain it. Again, I don't know. My brain does these things where I can't explain it, just switches. And became vegan. Didn't plan any specific amount of time I was going to do it. It just happened. I didn't fancy anything for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I really got into fitness in my second year of being a vegan. And I tried like all the proteins on the market, like literally like over 20. And I hated all of them. I thought they tasted like wet cardboard. And at that time in 2014, 2015, the vegan market was just like introducing it. It was just doing its baby steps in the UK. And then vegan fitness industry was like hardly even there.
Yeah.
Like these big brands like Optimum Nutrition and BSN and stuff, they didn't even have vegan protein.
Yeah, I remember that time. Yeah.
So I was trying all these alternative brands and some that had been around for ages, but the taste. How are you going to make me pay £60 to buy this much of wet cardboard?
Some dead protein.
It was, it was awful.
I hear that still.
I was just, I'm going to make my own. So just started like literally Google. I've given a few seminars on how to start up your business. And the first thing I say at the seminar is, we're going to start with Google. Okay? Research. Like you can do anything with Google.
You can just do anything in general.
You can do anything in general, especially with the internet.
Yeah, 100%.
We're so lucky. We're so lucky. Even to this day, with this completely digital era that we're living in, I still don't think that people take advantage of the internet enough and the power of it and what you can do with it.
I wholeheartedly agree. But let's go back onto your company.
Yeah. So anyway, just did loads of research of like factories that were doing own brand products. And just found a couple of factories, phoned them up, asked them to send me samples in the post. Took a year and like a lot of research and contacting a lot of different ones until I found the right one. And then I actually went to the factory. Wonderful guy that owns it. So he, wanted to be involved in making my sort of dream happen and my vision happen, which was to create a vegan protein that tastes just as good as whey.
Yeah.
That was my that was my sort of gap that I was trying to achieve at that time. Now the product's evolved due to like market needs. But in the beginning it was, I don't know anyone that could recommend a tasty vegan protein powder. Everyone's taking away. So eventually we got to a formula. I had some money saved up, so I invested that money into the tubs, the labeling. I did most of the design of the label. I had help, but again, it came through just research and inspiration from other brands.
Yeah.
I'm all for reinventing things that already exist on the market.
Yeah.
And we see that today, you know, with music, with water, with food, with everything. People are constantly doing the same thing. They're just reinventing it and making the same thing better.
Yeah. You're allowed to be inspired by other people, you know, and I think
exactly
that's a strong misconception that people have. Like, everyone's like trying so hard to be individual, and it's just like, you know, you can actually just take what someone does and just make it better.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If the market values it and the market needs it, there'll be room for you. But yeah, that's a little tangent.
You just got to find something and make it better.
Yeah.
So yeah, just started selling on Amazon, and then Virgin Active also helped me out a lot with like promotion and stuff, and the gym.
Yeah.
They've been really, really good to me. And again, it's just all reaching out on social media and on the internet, and you know, gaining people's. Running a business and being in politics go very hand in hand, because you need the same skills.
Yeah.
You know, you need to be able to speak to all different kinds of people. You need to be able to negotiate, to come to agreements, to have vision, to know that you're going to succeed.
Yeah.
So for me, it went hand in hand. So yeah, I'm just still selling on Amazon. It's doing well, touch wood. Took a little bit of a beating in the beginning of the lockdown, but things are picking up now. And, you know, it still has a long way to go to grow.
Yeah.
A lot of things that still I haven't been able to achieve with it, but I'm still going. Again, long game.
Yeah.
Look, Microsoft, Google, you see these examples are thrown in our face every day. Oh, it didn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight.
Proper doesn't. Like, everything takes time, and it's just like, again, we're talking about purpose. Like, if you take a hit and that hit keeps you down, then it's not really your purpose, because if it was your purpose, you'd be able to think beyond and move beyond the hit. It's a mindset. It's a mindset, because you know that you're going to persevere at all costs. You will take a hit, however which way it comes. Know that I'm going to persevere.
Exactly. And I think it's important that people remember that no one's ever going to have an easy journey in life. Yeah. Everyone is going to be dealt some very unfair cards. And some people will hit a lot of good luck, and that's just life. And I do genuinely believe in like good and bad luck.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, the universe also provides with you what you put out. So you will only be given what you can handle and deal with. Even at that point where you think, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And it could be anything. We can go really deep into like things that life can throw at you. Yeah. And we can listen to success stories all day. You know, grief, like death, illness, these things happen. And you can either be that person that sits there and drowns in the sorrows of that situation. And of course, it's important to deal with kicks in life. You should never overlook them.
Yeah, of course.
But to have them dictate the rest of your life, it's not a good look.
Yeah,
you just have to appreciate the lesson and embrace the journey, even if it's a bad journey and it's long until you reach like the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah, it'll come. So mindset.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think on that note,
easier said than done, but yeah.
I think on that note, that's it. Still, Sarah, thank you for coming once again, and tell them where they can find you on social media if you want to.
Thank you, Joey. It's been really interesting. I think we definitely need to have part 2 next year.
We definitely will.
When some things have changed. But you can find me on Instagram at Sara West London, and you can find me on Twitter at Sara West London. Yeah.
Well, don't forget about the vegan company.
And
Yes.
Vegain is vegain_supplements on Instagram. And my personal Instagram, which is where I post more lifestyle and not politics, because some people are actually interested to see the other side.
Yeah.
But that's Sara Kumar 333. Those are my lucky numbers.
Okay. On that note, we're gonna end, and yeah, thank you for coming once again. And that is a matter of mindset.
Thanks, Joey Jones.